Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 29th of September, comes to you from London. And a bit more red on the screen today. We're seeing the futures in the US just having a little bit of a weight there on markets. But looking at currencies first, the dollar is slightly down. So, having had a strong week last week, that big weekly candle, the biggest week we've seen since March, we are just fading away here, just turning a little bit short-term bearish, probably hitting some resistance soon on the cloud as well. But after such a strong week in the dollar, it's not surprising that we are seeing a little bit of a retracement. The big question is this move that we've seen in recent weeks on the dollar a bottom? Is that the bottom? And it's hard to say at the moment. But for the moment, it is looking like the dollar is staging quite a good recovery, having made that support there. And if we look at the euro, the reverse is true, of course. That stronger dollar, the euro has been rolling over against the dollar, looking a bit stronger again on the short-term chart, but on the medium term we are rolling over, and again that's looking like a top. Remembering this, of course, is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, long-term, medium, and short-term views of the market. Very quickly, taking a look at sterling, we're sitting at 128.70. Again, that stronger dollar has weighed. We were as high as 135 only a few weeks ago, and we're seeing here that we're falling away from that. So sterling actually recovering a bit this morning as the dollar just recedes a bit, but on the whole, sterling still looking pretty weak. Sitting at 110.20 against the euro, so we've had a better week against the euro, but over the last few months we've still been in general decline there against the euro, and we do have some downside targets. Brexit weighing, of course. If we make new lows this year, that will activate some very big downside targets. So we just need to be ready for a Brexit shock. Bitcoin sitting at $10,700. Not much change there, just gradually creeping up. But the charts are looking more and more bullish there, so that's quite cool as well. The S&P 500 index was up sharply yesterday, not enough to take the lagging line above the short-term 60-minute cloud. So we do still have this candle hanging over us, this bearish engulfing, and the downside target on the 0.5% chart. We haven't yet formulated one yet on the 1% chart, though we have on the Nasdaq. And if we look at the Nasdaq, we've got that 20% downside. There's actually two targets there on the Nasdaq. That's what's really interesting. We've got a 10% and a 20% target, and so those targets are there. We've got the upside targets as well. It's all about what happens next. And whilst those targets hang over us, there is some uncertainty. We did climb into bullish territory on the short-term 60-minute chart yesterday, so that's good news. The Nasdaq was up quite sharply, up around nearly 2%, but interestingly we do still have these targets hanging over us. The Dow was up 1.5%. It hasn't made it into bullish territory yet, and if we look at the futures, the S&P future is down 0.1%, and the Nasdaq E-mini is down 0.3%. We did do a scan of the Nasdaq yesterday, and only 23 stocks have outperformed the Nasdaq this year. So 2/3 of stocks have underperformed. It's just the big caps like Apple and Tesla, Amazon have all had really big impacts on the index. Looking at the VIX volatility, we are up 2% this morning. So the VIX has held this sort of level around 30, still twice the levels that we were seeing a year ago. So the VIX is still a little bit of a concern, and that just seems to be creeping up off that August low. So we do need to just keep an eye on that. The FTSE future is down just under 1% this morning. The cash in Germany is down just over 0.5%, and the CAC Quarante is down 0.3%. These markets all still bearish below the cloud on the short-term charts. The Japanese market was down very slightly. The Hang Seng down another 1%. This market really had a bad week last week. HSBC weighing heavily there, and we are still seeing bearish charts on all three time frames. China was up 0.2%, but again, this sideways consolidation pattern is just starting to waver, and the short term is bearish. The Sensex in India was up very slightly, not enough to take the market bullish here though, and the Aussie market was no change on the day. If we look at gold, we'll take a look at the energy mix in a minute. If we look at gold, we're down, we're up just very slightly this morning, but we have moved back into bullish territory for gold on the short-term chart. So it's bullish, bullish, bullish. We do have upside targets, but a 10% target hanging over us. Silver continues to fall. It had an amazing run, but last week was just a massive down week for silver. So we do need to just keep an eye on that as well. Looking at the energy mix now, Brent Crude, we were bearish for this week. We felt that we would fall out of this consolidation pattern. We have actually just risen slightly out of it since yesterday, so that's quite key. We do have upside targets, so it is looking a little bit perkier, but it is down this morning. And on the daily chart, it is finding support on the lagging line, but there is the risk here of a lower high and then a lower low. 39.50 is the level. If we fall below 39.50 for Brent, that's worrying. We have activated a downside target of $30. We do have an upside target. We'd need to move above 43.50 to activate that target to 51. So that's the play really. Below 39.50 we're bearish. Above 43.50 we're bullish. WTI is down just under 1%. So again, not failing yet. We do have mixed targets in both directions, probably just favouring the upside a little bit. We were neutral on WTI yesterday. We were also neutral on US nat gas because this was an extremely hard call. We've gone into a new contract. We just leapt back to the price there, so that's quite key. And if we look at coal, actually we're no change this morning. And this is looking bullish, one of our consistently bullish calls. And we're seeing on the 1 minute chart we've got a new upside target. So coal is actually gradually moving higher. Emissions are down 2.5% this morning, but they did seem to find support at around 26 euros yesterday. I do have an upside target of 28.70 on the 1 minute chart. Keep an eye on that 1 minute chart. This is really where you get all your trends and targets. So for the moment, 28.70, just push the T key on the chart and you'll get all the trends and targets. And then if we look at MVP, this was one of our bullish calls this week. That's continued to run. And if we look at TTF, also up 0.5% this morning. That's continuing to move as well, so that's quite key. Looking at TTF winter gas, we are sitting with new upside targets, breaking higher here, looking like making 6-7 month highs, so that's quite significant for European gas prices. German power is up very slightly this morning. It seems to have found support at just over 40 euros, about 40 euros 30, and we do seem to have a basing pattern here, building a bit like an ascending triangle. So for German power, we're still pretty confident that that is a long-term recovery. French power, the range here is 49, 40. 390 is quite a big range, but for the moment, French power not looking that hot. And if we look at Dutch power, we're also in that range here, 42.75, 37.95, that's the range. Of course, less liquid, we can see that on the chart. Czech power also less liquid and a bit range bound as well. We're seeing a little bit of a move here in Nordic power this morning, fairly flat, and if we look at the quarterly chart, this is roll adjusted. We're seeing here 3.4% higher this morning, but struggling to get bullish above the cloud, and we do have downside targets hanging over us. UK power is also sitting pretty steady between 42 and 44, so we need to just keep an eye on that as well. That's the seasonal contract for UK power. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.